Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Cervenik, and welcome to today's presentation of part two of our weight loss class. Today is really a great day because our session, a couple of months ago, about how to lose weight and really eat more and weigh less was very well attended. But we know that people are really interested in hearing how to make all this wonderful food. We talked a lot about in our last class why you don't lose weight on a kind of a standard diet plan, and how a whole food plant-based diet really helps people feel full, and you get to eat more when you lose weight. So today we're going to go through a bunch of recipes. We've got moderators on YouTube and Facebook, and they'll be popping a little link in there called a little tiny URL, and that tiny URL will take you to all the recipes that we're going to present today in order. So again, my name is Mark Cervenik, and I'm a board member of PBNM. Really excited to be here today. I do a lot of different things besides being a board director in PBNM. So if you're interested in what all of our backgrounds, all the speakers today, what we do in our other parts of our lives, if you go to pbnm.org and you look up directors and who we are, you'll see a little bit of bio about what we do on a day-to-day basis and how we support the whole food plant-based movement. So today I have several of my colleagues. I have Joan. Joan's going to do a little bit of an intro in a minute here, just a kind of a recap, if you will, of what we covered last time a couple of months ago. It was actually the end of February. Time really flies. And then Joan will be followed by Karen. Karen's going to do some wonderful recipes on oats and breakfast oatmeal and savory oats and overnight oats, something that I've never made, but I'm definitely going to try after reading and watching some of Karen assemble her dish. And then after Karen, I'll come back and make a little bit of a taco salad. And then after that, we'll have Sharmila's going to do a chole, and followed by Joan, who's going to do a chia pudding. And then we'll do some Q&A. So if you got some questions as we're going through today's cooking demonstration, go ahead and pop those in the chat. We've got moderators on YouTube and Facebook, and they'll be covering those items. So those of you that might not be familiar with PBNM, Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, is a not-for-profit organization. We're all volunteers on the board, and our mission is really to help folks transition to a whole food plant-based diet to support health, our environment, as well as one of our newest portions of our plant-based nutrition movement is 6 million seeds to really help children eat more healthy and get healthy foods, all those various colorful fruits and vegetables and grains into their diets. In fact, we're just about ready to pilot one of our first programs in a school here in the south suburbs. I'm actually located in the south suburbs of Chicago, and we're going to be piloting a little program over the summer of really teaching kids about the health and nutrition. So we do a lot of different things. If you go to pbn.org, you'll see not only 6 million seeds, which focuses on our children, but there is a Delicious Adventure, which is a monthly Facebook meetup group that really helps support people through the various stages of transitioning to the whole food plant-based diet. And we do these classes, we do fundraisers, and hopefully we'll be doing some potlucks again as COVID continues to hopefully become endemic in our society. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn our program over to Joan, and Joan's going to do a little bit of recap for those of you that didn't attend last 2 months ago session. It was actually February 20th, and she'll do a little bit of recap. So with that, Joan, take it away.
Hello, glad to see you today, or hopefully you can see me. Yes, I want to review very quickly. I know we're all interested in let's get to the recipes, but I know some of you haven't been with us before, and some of you may have just, need a quick review of what we've covered. So I'm going to start with our first screen, and that is Sharmila started us last time we were together talking about it's great if you need to, for health reasons, want to lose weight, but it's really important to consider some other things like health risks, like chronic diseases, like leading a healthy life. If you want to maintain weight loss, we can all lose weight quickly, but if we have the right reasons for losing weight, and often that is the important reason of having better health, as well as perhaps looking better, then we're going to be able to be more successful. So Sharmila talked about that, and I'm going to go to the next screen because then I talked about, and I'm a nurse and I've talked a lot in my past about how to lose weight. And quite frankly, a lot of what I used to say, I don't say anymore because we found that a lot of it didn't work. We talked about the weight loss trap, and even Time Magazine talked about how we can all get trapped because so much misinformation. We thought we were doing the right thing, such as we thought we could exercise the weight off. And I gave you lots of examples last time of you just can't outrun a bad diet unless you are exercising most of your day. And most of us don't have time to do that. And then we talked a little bit about a calorie. We used to say a calorie is a calorie. Doesn't matter what kind of calorie. It doesn't matter when you eat it. Well, we've learned differently. We've definitely learned that some calories are easier to lose weight on than others. So I went into a little bit of that. And then we talked about the general public, and hopefully you are wiser than that to be aware that you don't have to be afraid of carbs. This whole thing about carb phobic, complex carbs are going to help you to lose weight. And that's the kind of recipes we're going to talk about today. So, if you in the past were concerned about, oh, I have to avoid carbs, and I see there's carbs in some of these recipes, don't worry. You can lose weight on complex carbs. It's those simple carbs that cause problems. And then I talked a little bit about everything in moderation. I used to say that as a nurse when I was counseling folks about weight loss. Oh, you can have anything. Well, we're learning that it sort of depends on how you define moderation. Because for a lot of people, well, I'll only have desserts when we're celebrating. But heck, if you're in a big office, if you're in a big family, everybody's having a birthday. It seems like there's always a reason to celebrate, which is a good thing. We want to celebrate. But if we celebrate with food and then we, then say, well, I can have it once in a while. It depends on what you talk about once in a while. So everything in moderation can get you into trouble. And there are probably some foods that basically you shouldn't have it all, such as Spam, such as Cheetos, because, you need to take in food. And if you take in those kinds of foods, you're probably pushing out other kinds of foods. So the whole concept of everything in moderation, we need to look at and maybe moderate ourselves. And then the last comment that I'm seeing here is, to lose weight, we need to drastically cut back on our calories. And that's what I really focused on when I was speaking last time. And I'm going to go to the next slide to describe that. Why is that a bad idea? If you decide, okay, I'm just cutting way back, I'm only going to eat one meal a day and it's going to be a couple of peas. No, your body's going to fight you. We are not made to cut back on our calories. And thanks to evolution, our bodies will conserve whatever calories we bring in. We've got a hunger hormone known as ghrelin, and ghrelin is going to make us want to eat if we drastically cut back on calories, and our metabolism will slow down. So we've got all kinds of biological reasons why drastically cutting back on your food intake is not going to lead to weight loss, even though it seems like it should. We're not built that way. So what should we do? Just give up? Of course not. In some of the recipes you're going to talk about today, you're going to say, well, I can't eat that. That's a lot of food. it's fine. That's why we call this eat more, lose more, because you can eat a lot if you're eating the right kind of foods. What kind of foods are those? Let me go to our next screen here. Calorie light foods. So I want to talk real briefly about the whole concept of calorie density. I'm sure you've probably all heard it because it's been the buzz term for a year or more now. But generally, calorie dense foods are ones that are packed with calories, and often they are not packed with nutrients. So your body doesn't necessarily get filled up, but you get a lot of calories, and you don't get the nutrients you need. So what we want are calorie light foods, but they can be filling. They can take up a lot of space. That's basically what a calorie dense food is. It doesn't take up a lot of space. And that's why I'm going to show you this next graphic that makes that very clear. You've seen this before, probably. This is 500 calories. Now, you can choose to eat your 500 calories as oil. Yeah, it doesn't fill up your stomach very much, does it? As cheese, not much better. As meat, well, you might have about a third of that stomach filled up. Potatoes, rice, and beans, now we're talking. Your whole stomach is almost full. Or you can take that 500 calories and eat fruits and vegetables, and you will be filled up with calorie light, as opposed to the other end, calorie dense foods. That's what oil is. Now, you're going to get a mixture of all of the most of these foods, but keep in mind how much of your stomach is being filled. And we need to fill our stomach about 3 times a day to feel like we're not starving. So those other biological methods, biological reflexes don't kick in. So we want to eat lots of calorie light foods. Here's another good example. This is about 400, almost 500 calories. You can have 4 tablespoons of olive oil, or you can have a plate full of fruits and vegetables. Now, which one is going to fill you up so you can stay on a weight loss plan? Of course, it's on the right. So these are the kind of recipes we're going to be talking about today. Tasty foods that will fill up your plate and fill you up so that you can sustain that, so you can keep on that eating plan. Okay, Mark talked a bit about foods that are great, better, and good. And you can see he focused on vegan, no oil, or very low oil added foods, fresh foods, foods that are lightly processed or frozen. And then conventional canned food can still be eaten on a weight loss plan. But, you know, we want to go more with the great foods and the good foods as opposed to those calorie dense foods. And then just to kind of finish off here, Mark talked a little about the a whole food plant-based plate. What does it look like? It looks like fruits, legumes or beans, grains, and vegetables. And again, our recipes are going to reflect that plate. So if we put all of our recipes together, you would see this kind of proportions. And finally, last time we met, Karen gave us some great tips about how to save time in the kitchen, how to be smart, so that you're not like this poor woman with just throwing your hands up and saying, I'm sorry, I can't do this. It's too much work in the kitchen. I need help. So we're going to give you some very easy recipes and ways that you can batch cook so that you can do these recipes and many more that will lead to weight loss. And you can see batch cooking, eating big salads, but not only salads. Notice we're not giving you necessarily salads today. You know about salads, but some other filling foods. So Karen talked about that, did a great job of showing us so many delicious foods. Okay, I've talked long enough. I think it's time for us to jump in and put some of these concepts and tips into practice. So I know we're having some technical difficulties. When we have so many people in so many different locations, it can be challenging. And I'm not sure exactly at this point. Karen is going to speak. I'm not sure if she is able to do that now, or if we will have somebody else fill in. But Karen's got some great recipes for us, so we'll want to hear those. It's kind of funny, but I'm not known as the best cook. I'm always the one that, kind of, how do I get in and out of the kitchen quickly? And so if some of you are like me, you'll appreciate they gave me the simplest recipe, and yet it was really delicious. So I'm going to talk to you about Chia mango pudding, but that's at the end because it is a dessert. And at this point, I am going to turn it over so that we can proceed. So good talking to you, good reviewing. These are all the reasons why you might want to try these recipes. And now let's look at the recipes. Let's get in the kitchen.
All right, hi folks. So we're going to skip breakfast, which we don't want to generally do, but our colleague friend Karen is having some technical difficulties. There's some storms coming through the Chicago area here, and I don't know, maybe she got some storms coming her way and interfered. So, anyways, again, Mark Cirkvenik. I'm going to do a salad. So even though Joan said, we're gonna work on some different recipes today, it's important though that we do eat salads, and we're going to amp this salad up for one of my favorite salads, and it's a taco salad. So you do have the recipes available. The links should be posted in the chat, and I know they're also on our Facebook page. It's a little tiny URL for our class today, and so hopefully we get Karen back at some point during the show. She was going to do some oats and oatmeal and overnight oats, but we're going to proceed with our taco salad. So the first thing, one of the first things I teach students, and I do this work with the board at PBNM, and I'm also what's called a Food for Life instructor. Some of you may be familiar with Food for Life through the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And one of the things we teach with Food for Life instructors with our students is to use no oil in our cooking. And Joan had mentioned that about not using oil. So my first little quiz, and I'd like you to put the answer in the chat if you're on YouTube or on Facebook, is how many calories are in a gram of oil? So how many calories are in a gram of oil? And then how many calories are in a gram of carbohydrates? Okay, so carbohydrates, we're talking those good carbs, right? Those good carbs that are in fruits, vegetables, grains, and beans. Okay, so how many calories in a gram of oil? How many calories in a gram of carbohydrates? So again, we're not going to use any oil, and I'll give you the answer before I'm done with my portion here. We're not going to use any oil. We're going to saute with water, and it's super easy. So this recipe, this taco salad recipe, starts with a medium onion chopped up, and I'm going to throw those right in the pan here, and you probably can hear those sizzling a little bit. So, and you'll also notice this pan, for those of you that have been cooking for a number of years, this pan is just about 36 years old next month. Why do I remember that? Because my wife and I were married 36 years ago, August 23rd, and this pan was a wedding present. It was actually a shower present. So you don't need a lot of fancy cooking, a lot of fancy utensils. Yeah, people, Karen's going to show you an Instapot, and I'm going to use an immersion blender, and Vitamixes and all that. But vegan cooking, whole food, plant-based cooking specifically, you do not need a lot of fancy equipment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these onions around. And you'll notice, folks, that there's no water in this pan. What I'm trying to do at this point is allow the natural sugars to come out of the onion. So I'm just going to kind of move this around on my 36-year-old electric fry pan here, stainless steel. I've got my heat on about 250 degrees, and they're just cooking away. If I start seeing them stick a little bit, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of water in there and just let those move around. When I first started cooking whole food plant-based no oil, I used to put a lot of water in the pans. And come to find out from colleagues of mine, as I learned this craft a little bit more, that when you put a lot of water in the pan with your onions or your garlic, or if you're sauteing any vegetables, really what you're doing is you're boiling the vegetable at that point. So we want it to caramelize a little bit. We want some of that richness of the flavor to come out, and just allow those natural goodness, the goodness and depth of flavor to be developed in our onions. So you'll see it's kind of turning brown a little bit. I'm not worried about that. Again, this is not a nonstick. I'm just going to deglaze it with a little bit of water and just add a little bit of water. If I kept cooking these, folks, we would eventually brown these. In fact, you're kind of starting to see them turn brown a little bit. With this recipe, we just want to soften these up. So I'm just going to put several tablespoons of water in my dish here and just keep that moving around and nice and loose. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chop up some garlic. And so I have been a student of chefs, and I really look at my mentors, some of my celebrity mentor chefs, if you will, as Jacques Pepin. You might remember that name. In fact, I think Jacques just turned like 82 recently. Lydia Bastianich and Paul Hollywood, some of my favorite chefs. And so a lot of the little tips that I share with students are really about, reducing your time in the kitchen and how to have proper skills with respect to knives and processing garlic and things like that. So one of the first things is we always want a sharp knife. So I like to hone my knife every time. We want to reduce those burrs a little bit. So I'm gonna hone my knife just very, very carefully, and then I'm gonna process this garlic. So really easy way, and you may know this tip already, but really easy way to get those garlic to jump out of their husk is to cut the little end off where it attaches to the plant itself, and you cut that little root off, and then give it a good whack like that, and see how that just jumps right out of the skin. It just jumps right out of the skin. Another easy way to do it is to take another kitchen time saver, and that's this thing called a bench scraper. I'll take this if I'm really lazy. I'll just take this and put it on my cutting board. Take the flat side here, nice big flat side of my bench scraper, and give it a whack like that. And look at that guy. That guy, he can't wait to get out of the skin there, right? And so I'm just going to do that really quick. There, I've got one more guy trying to jump off the counter on me, and just give that a nice little whack, and it just all jumps out of the skin really easy. I'm just going to cut that little root end off because I didn't cut it off that way. I'm just trying to give you a couple of different tips there. I'm not too worried about those little brown bits there. You see a little brownness. You could kind of cut those off, but we're going to mix this all. And now my pan's kind of really starting to brown up here, and I'm not too worried about that. See, I've now just loosened all those lovely brown bits. It's nice caramelized. Just release that, and now we're going to put the rest of our garlic in the pan. Keep my husks out of there. Put all that garlic in the pan, and also in the pan is going to go some taco seasoning. All right, we're going to throw some taco seasoning there, and then my quinoa. So one of the really cool things about this diet is it exposes you to so many different grains and foods that maybe you've never heard before or used before. Quinoa is a great ancient grain. It is a gluten-free grain, and the recipe talks about two different ways to make this quinoa. The one way would be to actually put the quinoa in this pan raw and then cook it with your vegetables. The other way is to toast the quinoa ahead of time in a dry pan and then cook your quinoa ahead of time. So just the quinoa by itself. The beautiful thing about cooking quinoa before ahead of time, prior to this recipe, so really, you know, getting that quinoa nice and soft, is the fact that you could make a big batch of it, and then let's say you just want to throw this recipe together, kind of like I am, and I'm throwing this recipe together really in about 10 minutes here. We're just going to put it together. We're going to let this cook. I'm going to jump ahead really quick, and for the sake of time, throw my corn in there, throw my beans in there, and throw some lime. Another time-saving tip is if you get some fresh limes, squeeze those into ice cube trays, freeze them, and then just thaw them out. You've got fresh lime juice. So another nice tip saver, if you will, or time saver for you as well. Now I'm just going to let that heat up really, really nice. And this is almost done. The recipe says let this kind of sit and marinate for a few minutes. One of the things that you'll notice is I'm kind of mixing things up a little bit in terms of the order I'm going in and how I do the recipe and various alternative methods. That's the beautiful thing about recipes. Recipes are really intended to be guides. The very first time you do it, you might want to follow the recipe to the letter, if you will, but then play with it. You'll note in the recipe as well, in terms of condiments, I suggest a lot of different things. I suggest avocados, hot sauce. It's only limited by your imagination and what you might want to what you might want to add to your quinoa. So that is just about done there. So now what I have is a really nice plate of greens. We could use romaine. This is just a spring mix from Aldi's. We get that big box of spring mix from Aldi's, and it's really very versatile. And now all I'm going to do is just spoon some up. I'm going to turn my heat off my 36-year-old fry pan. Put my quinoa on top of that, and we're missing one thing, folks, and that's some sour cream. So on a whole food plant-based diet, of course, we don't eat dairy, but we've got a wonderful alternative to sour cream. And the recipe's so easy, I didn't include it. There's 3 ingredients in this recipe. First of all, we're going to take our silken tofu. Sometimes you'll see it referred to as soft tofu. Okay, silken or soft, basically the same thing. We're going to get a package of that and dump that. So write this down, folks. Dump your silken tofu in a bowl. We're going to put just about a tablespoon of red wine vinegar in there, and then we're going to put a tablespoon of lemon juice, and then some salt and pepper. There it is. That is our sour cream. That's how simple. A little bit of salt. I'm going to leave the pepper out for now, and all I'm going to do is take my immersion blender and blend, and just let this thing rip here. So funny story. I had a box of silken tofu sitting on the counter here. My wife and I went out last night. We come home this morning. I'm looking for the silken tofu. Couldn't find it. My dog got on the counter, took the box of silken tofu, and ate it. Ripped the top of it off and ate my silken tofu. Fortunately, I had some in the freezer. Yeah, you can freeze tofu, and was able to make it. Was able to make this recipe with my backup tofu. So my dogs are omnivores, right? They do eat meat, but Chevy, my one dog who's an Anatolian Solution mix, we call him Counter Surfer, is one of his many nicknames. He got our silken tofu. But anyways, that's how fast this is. Look how fast that is to whip that up into a wonderful sour cream. And now I'm just gonna take a big dollop of sour cream, put that right on the top there, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of my salsa of your liking. And then to garnish this, I'm going to garnish this with a couple wedges of lime, and gonna do this up really, really nicely here. And there you have it, folks. We've got some beautiful taco salad for lunch. I wish y'all could be over here at my house and enjoying my taco salad. Let me give this a little bit of taste and tell you what it tastes like, just to kind of give you an idea. It is, the nice thing about this is, first of all, you get the greens, nice fresh greens, and then you get a little bit of tartness of the lime juice, and then the kiwa and the beans, and a little hint of garlic. And I gotta tell you what, folks, while you all are watching Sharmila make chole, I'm gonna eat my taco salad still. Again, okay. Oh, the answer to the question, to my question is, how many calories in a gram of oil? How many calories in a gram of carbohydrates? Oil has 9 calories per gram. Doesn't matter what kind of oil it is, olive oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, 10W30 motor oil. It's all got 9 calories per gram, and carbohydrates have 4 calories. So that's why we say don't use the oil. Low fat is, you are cutting out, more than half your calories if you cut the oil out of your diet, and you don't need it. You don't need that oil in your diet. You can get all those wonderful nutrients from a whole food plant-based diet. So there's the answer. I'd like to now turn it over to Sharmila, and she's going to make chole. Sharmila, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Can you guys hear me? All okay?
Yep.
Okay. Mark, that looks delicious. Maybe I should come over to your house and have some of my stuff along with my chole. So, hi, everybody. My name is Sharmila Vedan. I switched to this lifestyle about almost 6 years ago. It was actually, we went cold turkey for a reason that my husband was hit with an autoimmune disease. But anyway, I'm going to show you how we could make a very versatile dish. It is called chole, which is an Indian dish. It's usually prepared with garbanzo beans. And as I said, it's versatile. I'll tell you on the way while preparing the dish why I would call it a versatile recipe or a dish. So as you can see, my pan is hot. I'm going to start with some cumin seeds, about a teaspoon of cumin seeds. We don't have any oil. As Mark said, oil isn't good, and oil is just going to clog up your hearts, and you're going to just add some unwanted calories into your body, due to which you're going to just put on some unwanted weight, and on the long run it isn't good for your body either. So don't anybody fool you by somebody saying that, oh, you need oil to for your joints or for your long-term health. I've even heard that oil is needed for the brain. But if you take a teaspoon of oil, you're going to actually not even feel like having it. So oil does not add any flavor to your dishes. Once the cumin seeds are toasted up, I'm just going to add 1 bay leaf and then a couple of sticks of cinnamon stick. And at this point, I'm going to add a tablespoon of chopped ginger. This is actually organic ginger. And then a tablespoon and 2 tablespoons of garlic, chopped garlic. What I have observed is to substitute for the oil, if you add some additional spices, in this case, I added additional garlic, ginger, I might have reduced it a little bit, but if I increase the spices and the flavors from ginger, garlic, onions, then you don't really miss the oil. I'm going to add onions. This is about 2 tablespoons, 2 onions, 2 small onions, all finely chopped up. And I'm going to add a little bit of salt, because I have noticed that if I add, so this is about a half a teaspoon of salt. If I add a little bit of salt, the onions naturally let go of their water, and it gets nicely toasted. Or we could also do the way Mark does, where we add a little bit of water. And I just prefer doing it this way because it's just natural. But if you are on a low sodium diet, absolutely fine to skip this part of adding the salt. And then you can just add the water at this point. And water is 0 calories, 0 trans fat, 0 saturated fat. So water is the new oil in our world of eating this way, whole food, plant-based, no oil way of eating. As you can see, the onion, ginger, garlic, everything has started toasting up. At this point, I'm going to add tomatoes. It's actually a tomato puree. It's about 4 Roma tomatoes. I just blended it up in my blender. And I pressure cooked the garbanzo beans in my instant pot. You can do it in a pressure cooker. I soaked it for maybe a couple of hours, and I pressure cooked it with one tea bag. And the tea bag is the natural flavor of the tea powder. It adds flavor to the beans. But if you are on a no caffeine diet, absolutely fine to skip it. There is no need. But it just enhances the flavor when you're making the chole of, by putting that one tea bag while pressure cooking the garbanzo beans. And this is garbanzo beans from that I soaked, it's the raw beans that I soaked and pressure cooked it. But if you're short on time, just take a couple of cans, wash it, rinse it, thoroughly, and then just put it at this point whenever, the tomatoes are all cooked and the raw smell of the tomato, onion, and everything has diminished. So at this point, I'm going to be adding some spices. I'm going to be adding cayenne pepper or chili powder. Again, I'm going to be adding about, a teaspoon and a half. But if you cannot handle spice, then skip it, reduce it, increase it. It's all up to your liking. There isn't a right ratio for the chili powder or the cayenne powder. It's all up to your preference and liking. And then I'm going to be also adding some coriander powder. It's about a tablespoon and a half, coriander powder. And most of these spices, you can find it at the Indian store. If you ever have an Indian store close by to your home, you can just go make 1 month or once in 2 months shopping haul and then go pick up all the Indian spices. And I'm also going to be adding a teaspoon and a half of dry mango powder. It's also called the Amchur powder. It gives a nice tangy flavor. Mango is actually the national fruit of India, and so we use mangoes in the raw form, in the ripe form. So this is actually dried raw mango powder. But if you do not have access to this, or you cannot go to an Indian store and pick it up, it's fine to skip it. Just in as a replacement, why don't you go ahead and add maybe, 2-3 tablespoons of lemon juice or lime juice. But at that point, don't add it at this point. Add the lemon juice or the lime juice almost till at the end of the cooking process. So here's the Amchur powder. I'm also going to be adding half a teaspoon of cumin powder. And this is just regular cumin powder. I did not have to roast it or, cook it in that way. So there we go. And then once it starts cooking, the raw smell of the tomato. So you can do this a couple of different ways. At this point, you can actually make this dish either on the stove top, or you can start in the instant pot, or you can prepare the entire dish in the instant pot. You can saute it in the saute mode in the instant pot, and then once all the onion and everything is sauteed, then add the tomato, put the garbanzo, put all the spices, and then you can just pressure cook it in the instant pot. So at this point, I'm going to add a little more of the salt. But as I said, if you're on a no salt diet, absolutely fine to skip it. There is a spice called sumac, which I learned recently. It's a great substitute for salt. It enhances the flavor. It gives you the flavor as if it is a salted dish, as if you did actually add salt to the dish. So if you're on a low sodium diet, or for whatever reason you want to skip the salt, do consider purchasing something called sumac. It comes from a fruit, and it's like a maroonish reddish color. You can add it at the end just before consuming it, or you can add it while cooking also. It doesn't matter. And then at this point, I'm going to add the garbanzo beans. because we are short on time. Otherwise, I would actually wait maybe for another 5 to 10 minutes till the tomato starts cooking and the raw smell of the tomato, as I said, reduces and diminishes. So, as I said, this is cooked garbanzo beans. This is about, I don't know, 3-4 cups of cooked garbanzo beans. And I'm going to be also adding this is a mix of garam masala and chole masala. As I said, the chole masala and the garam masala is available at the Indian stores. So, do consider going to the Indian store once in a while, picking up all the Indian spices. That way you're all stocked up. If you ever feel like having an Indian dish, you have the spices all sorted out. And I'm just going to be adding this. And I'm going to let this simmer, I don't know, for almost 20-25 minutes. And I'm going to add a little bit of water. And I'm also going to mash a few pieces of the garbanzo beans. It just enhances the flavor by giving it like on a thicker side, It makes it a full. It just doesn't feel granular. It just feels, I don't know, like more like a pudding or a porridge type of consistency. So I'm going to let that cook. But in the meantime, I'm going to show how I've prepared it. If you can see, this is the final version. So if you can see the tea powder or the tea, when I put the tea bag in the instant pot while cooking it, it did ooze out a little bit of the dark tea flavor, and that's the reason that the final dish is prepared and it looks on the darker side, and that's the reason it changes the flavor, does give it a nice tinge, the color and everything. So as I said, I was telling you that it's a versatile dish. I can eat this. And remember, Karen was talking about batch cooking and preparing it, a big batch. So I would prepare maybe a big batch of 7-8 quarts of chole on the weekend. And by the way, you can prepare the same dish with rajma, which is nothing but kidney beans. I would do everything, and instead of putting the garbanzo beans, I would put the rajma, which is nothing but the dark kidney beans. And the only difference that I would do is we have something called the rajma masala. So instead of putting the chole masala, I would be putting the rajma masala, again available at the Indian store. So again, going back, why this would be a versatile dish and a perfect batch cooking kind of dish, I can have this on a Monday with brown rice. I can have this on a Tuesday with tortillas with some, toppings and things like that, and then a side dish of Mark's taco salad, because Tuesday is Tacos Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'm going to be having this with quinoa, if I feel like. On Thursday, I can have it on a bed of spring mix, arugula, spinach. Friday, just take this, put some soya yogurt, and make it a meal by itself. It's maybe, Friday is a no-grain day type of day, I don't know. But if you feel like it. And then Saturday and Sunday, if you still have some leftover, take all the garbanzo beans out and put it make a big batch of a salad with cucumbers, tomatoes, onions, and everything. And put the garbanzo beans or the chole, mix it, toss it up, and it makes a perfect salad. And then you can have it with some avocados or, a spring of, cilantro and things like that. And so you have a meal. And then Sunday you make a new batch again. So maybe this week you make rajma, then the following week you make chole. And, beans are great. It's a great source of vitamins, iron, fiber. It keeps you full for a long period of time. If you have this amount, I don't know how much this is, like maybe 2 or 3 cups of cooked chole. If you have this at lunchtime, I can guarantee you're not going to be hungry for the next 4 or 5 hours. It really fills up your stomach, and it is good calories. It's going to fill you up, and you're not going to put on weight because there isn't any additional fat in this dish. So now that we have the salad sorted out, the dinner sorted out, you're going to come and say, oh my God, now that I have this, I still feel like having some dessert. And that's where Joan comes in place, because she's going to show us some yummy, yummy, delicious mango chia pudding, which, as she said, she isn't the greatest cook, which I beg to differ. But anybody, if Joan can prepare it, anybody can prepare the mango chia pudding. There you go, Joan.
Thank you. Well, that's the truth. I like simple recipes because I don't have such great skill. But I'm willing, and I'm going to tell you, I had a little disaster making this one. So I want to encourage you, if you have a little disaster, you just try again. My first attempt wasn't very pretty. We ended up with kind of a grayish green chia pudding. And one of the things I learned is I need to pay a real close attention sometimes to the recipe. Sharmila has shared this recipe, and it was a great recipe, but she goes to Indian stores or Indian markets, and I was lazy. I went to my local jewel, and I tried to get all the ingredients, and I found mango. I started with my mango because that was the main ingredient here, and I just got some frozen mango. I did break down and buy one fresh mango for the garnish. Okay. Well, it turns out Sharmila mentioned a package of mango, but her package was a lot bigger than my package. So she gave recommendations to use chia seeds for that amount. I had double the chia seeds I needed, which turned everything kind of dark. So actually, it was pretty good, but it wasn't really pretty. So I learned my lesson. And like I said, if I can, you can. So here's this recipe. It's got all of 5 ingredients. I bet you could find all these ingredients easily, or you could be a little more exotic. The only one that you might have a little trouble with is saffron. And I don't know that you can see this tiny, I put on Scotch tape some tiny little strands of saffron, and it sounds so exotic. My sister happened to have some and gave me some of these strands, but I wanted to show you exactly what those strands, now you can see. And you don't need many. You need more than this, but you just need like 4 or 5 strands. So that's the one exotic ingredient. And you can certainly get this. You can certainly get it off of Amazon. But the ingredients would be then pulp, mango pulp, whether you get it canned, whether you get it frozen. And then you're going to need 1 mango fresh, just for garnish. You wouldn't have to have it, but it looks nice. And then you're going to need some chia seeds, easy to get. You're going to need 1/2 a cup. And our recipe, I'm sorry to say, I was out of town and I didn't get it straightened out. The recipe says a cup. Stick with 1/2 a cup. So if you have that recipe, remember, you don't want green, gray chia pudding. You want pretty yellow. So don't add too many chia seeds. Although it was good and crunchy. It went well. Then you're going to need something that I didn't have, but it was easy to order from Amazon. And I needed cardamom. Now, I think you could use just powdered cardamom, which you could get from any grocery store. But I decided I wanted to be more authentic. And I bought, I looked at what they had. They had pods, they had seeds. I went with decorticated cardamom. And then I found, it's kind of hard. It kind of looked like pepper kernels. And I had to put it in my little smoothie maker so that I could break it up a little bit. So if you get this, if you just use cardamon's powder, you won't have any trouble. You just add it to the recipe. So here's what you do. It's a pretty simple recipe. Oh, and then the other ingredient is plant-based milk. And I used almond milk, and you need a cup. Okay, so you get your handy mixer. You don't even have to use a mixer, but if you have a Vitamix, it works real well. And you put all your ingredients in here, except don't put those chia seeds in yet, because they'll start thickening it up. You can don't put the pieces for the garnish, but you put your mango pulp in the blender. You put your milk, 1 cup of milk, and then you put the saffron seeds, just throw them in. And then you put you only need 1/2 teaspoon of the cardamom powder or the spice. That's it. That's my kind of recipe. Mix it up in your Vitamix and you end up with a very nice pudding. Now, you're going to put it in a dish, and you can use any kind of a dish. Excuse me here. This is the kind of dish I chose, and you can see I garnished it. I can't turn it too much because the pudding's gonna come out a bit. I don't know if you, there you go. Okay, this is a little container. You can see it's a yellowish green, and then I put some berries on and a strawberry, and then you can see those pieces of yellow mango. Just put those on the top. Look pretty good, but I'm a stemware gal. I like to drink my drinks in stemware. I like my desserts in stemware. This looks better, doesn't it? Okay, and same idea. I put some berries, put that strawberry in the middle, and then I put some pieces of mango. You'll get 4 servings, so you could make a bigger batch. I know my husband, I liked it quite well. He was willing to try the greenish gray, but he liked the yellow better, and it's sweeter too. So that's all that recipe is. It's very simple, but do remember it's a half a cup of chia seeds, not a whole cup. So sorry I didn't get that straightened out earlier. Okay, now you had your dessert, ready to go to bed maybe? You're still hungry. And remember, when you eat whole food plant-based, you can eat healthy foods. And if your body says you need more, you may need more. So let's pull a switch. Let's say, my body's saying I need something. I want some breakfast. I know it's not morning, but I need breakfast. Well, you can have breakfast, and we've got the perfect person to tell you what you can have for breakfast. Karen Bender is again one of our board members, and I'm in awe of her cooking abilities. She can travel all over the country and still produce wonderful meals, on the go. So I'm delighted to introduce Karen, and she is going to tell us about oatmeal at any time.
Hey everybody, thanks Joan. I appreciate the compliment, but I may like to cook, but actually I like things simple. Anything that's got too many ingredients or takes too long is not an everyday experience for me. So after a lot of technical difficulties, I am here. I'm literally on my knees, but I promise you cooking whole food plant-based is not going to take you to your knees. But here I am, so I hope you can see me and hear me okay. So thumbs up if everything's okay. So here we are. So, and the other good thing is I was going to use an Instant Pot, which, you can take anywhere. This is my I call this my baby Instant Pot. It's my 3-quart, and it literally I can cook in my office. So here we go. We're going to try. So I'm going to show you a couple of different kinds of oats. And the first one is a little bit different, I should say, or maybe even some people might call it strange. At least that's what I thought when I first heard about it. I read this recipe in one of the Engine 2, now it's Plant Strong cookbooks. I've adapted it a little bit and added some things to it. But I have to say that at first I thought there is no way this is going to all go together. But it is one of our very, very favorite meals, and you can eat it for dinner or lunch or breakfast. And I probably have this at least 4 times a week. No kidding. So I've already added in the recipe, it calls for 1.5 cups of water and 1.5 cups of plant milk. But today I just put some water in. It's already in there, ready to go. And the little trick I have, if you don't have an Instant Pot, or it's sitting in your in the box still because you're afraid to open it up, I've heard that before. Don't be afraid. It's really pretty easy. So my little trick is there's a saute button over on the side. And when I start preparing this in the morning or whenever I do it, I push the saute button, and I'm not sauteing, but I'm heating water. And it just makes it come to pressure faster when you're ready. So while I'm throwing everything in, it's already heating up. So you can use half water, half milk, or you can just use water. Either way is fine. And then I have 1 cup of steel cut oats. So you can see that. So I'm going to just pour that in. And then I'm going to add, this is 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. And I also added some flaxseed, which you can do with it or without, whatever you want. But this is a good recipe that hides a lot of things. So if there's some things you're trying to get in because you say, I know I should be eating flax seeds, but maybe you're not crazy about the taste, you won't taste it. This hides everything. which is why I also add turmeric. And what else do I have in here? I have some chili powder and some amla. Now, amla is, again, thanks to the Indian or international market, you can find that it's powdered gooseberry that's supposed to be one of the highest antioxidant foods in the world or something like that. So I just throw it in for nutrient purposes. It doesn't have a very nice taste, but you don't taste it at all. And then the chili powder, it's whatever your taste is. If you don't like chili powder or you don't want spicy, skip it. Sometimes I'll skip it and we just add our own flavors, but I'm going to throw that in. Okay, and here's the crazy ingredients now. I have, well, it's in the recipe. How many do I have? 4 or more diced dried tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes. And again, you can use regular tomato if you don't have these, but this gives it a really nice rich flavor. So I'm going to throw those in. I'm also going to throw in some dried shiitake mushrooms. And again, you can use fresh mushrooms if you don't have these. But I will suggest, I've gotten them at H Mart, or some of the international markets are a lot less expensive than buying those little tiny 2-ounce packages at the grocery store. And recently, Costco had a huge container of dried mushrooms. I'm hoping they still continue to have it. I didn't completely buy it all out, but but they're kind of crunched up in there, and you can see, and I throw those in there. And then I throw in a couple of handfuls of chopped greens. This happens to be kale, and but you can use spinach, arugula, collards, mustard green, I mean, any kind of greens that you want. You can also use frozen greens. So this is a recipe that if we come home from vacation, from our travels, and I haven't shopped yet, I almost always have some frozen greens and these dried ingredients in the pantry. So at least we know we have breakfast. And I think that's it. So now what I'm going to do is turn off the saute button. And okay, did I bring my lid in here? I think I brought everything in but the lid. Okay, well, we're not going to put the lid on right now, but you will put the lid on. You will push pressure cook, and you'll push 6 minutes. And then it will take 6 minutes. It'll come to pressure. It'll beep, and then it'll take 6 minutes, and then you have to let it come down to pressure. Oh wait, here's my sous chef. Thanks. There we go. Okay, now I can really do this. You make sure you put the vent in the right place, and I'm going to pressure cook. I was hoping to do this first, so it would be ready to show you when we're done. So I'm not sure about that now. And then we set the time for 6 minutes. That's all it takes to cook steel-cut oats in the Instant Pot. I will remind you that when it's done, you need to wait at least 15 minutes to let it come down partially. Then you can, let the steam out, or just let it come down all the way on its own. Either way, but this is a great way to start your morning. If you've got time, you can make it ahead. It stays in the refrigerator. I usually double or triple the recipe, and we have it for a number of days. But it's a great thing to. You can go walk the dog. You can go do yoga, you can take a walk, you can do whatever you want, because the Instant Pot is doing all the work for you. And then when it's done, stir it up a bit. If you need to add any extra plant milk to it, I like to put some soy yogurt on top. Lately, I've been adding my black cumin seeds. See that here. Dr. Greger recommends some black cumin for lowering cholesterol and losing weight and all that. And it's got kind of a peppery taste to it. So I ground some up. And so we've been enjoying that quite a bit. So I'm going to move this out of the way. So, and I think I'm going to even try putting this on the floor. We'll see what happens. So the other thing is, it's starting to get warm out, and maybe you don't always have a taste for a really hot oatmeal. I know that you kind of think a little bit more about having that in the winter. So another option is overnight oats. And I really like overnight oats when I know I have to be out early in the morning. Especially we do travel. We see our kids out of town. And if I'm going to be in the car, I like to have breakfast ready to go. So we're out the door and we can eat at the first rest stop or something. And I usually take it in little empty peanut butter jars. They're just the perfect size for a meal. But I'm going to show you today a couple of different kinds of overnight oats. And again, you can heat these or you can just eat them cold. So, and in the recipes that you got the link to, there's actually 5 different flavors, but it's all very forgiving. Like you don't have to follow the recipe exactly. You can add what you like, take out what you don't like, and this is just some examples of how exotic you can get with overnight oats. So the first one I want to show you is something called peanut butter brownie. So I started with 1 cup of oats. I'm using a mason jar, but you can use a bowl or empty peanut butter jar, however that works. And then I'm going to add about 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 cups of plant milk. This happens to be soy milk that I just had handy. Okay. And then I'm going to also add a tablespoon of cacao powder, which you can use cocoa powder if you want. Cacao powder is a little less processed than cocoa powder. So I always look for that. This also has a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon and a tablespoon of peanut butter powder. So I bought the PB2 no sugar added. I couldn't find it locally. Trader Joe's used to have it and they don't anymore. Maybe somebody out there knows where you can get it. I ordered it on Amazon, but I'm sure if you look around you can find it. But you could probably also add a scoop of peanut butter into this as well. This just has less fat, which is a concern for some. So I added that, and then I add a mashed onion. No, not an onion, a banana. And don't ask me where that word came from. Okay, so here's the mashed banana. I'm going to kind of stir it up a bit. And then if you want to, you can I add a little bit of maple syrup. And I have to say that since I've been plant-based and I don't use sugar, hardly ever, I don't need things to be so sweet anymore. But if you're just starting out, you might need just a little bit of sweetener to kind of get you started. But you will find that things taste sweeter than they did before. And if you use a really ripe banana, that's very sweet as well on its own. So that's it. You just cover it up, put it in the jar overnight, stir it up, add some liquid to it if it needs it in the morning. And, you could add flaxseed, you could add chia, you could add hemp seed, you could just, top it with whatever else you have on hand or whatever you like. But I don't know, peanut butter brownie sounds pretty good to me for a morning or a dessert. Since I'm the last one, you could just have this for your snack. So here's another one that I already made up just to show you. I don't think it's very pretty through the jar, but this is the carrot cake overnight oats. And I tried this just recently. I never really thought I would be much for eating carrots in the morning like this, but it's carrots and raisins, the oats, the soy milk. I added some cinnamon, vanilla, a pinch of nutmeg and ginger, and you could throw some pumpkin seeds in there if you want to. And it's quite tasty. I think I put a little bit too much carrot in this time. It was about a cup of shredded carrot, which you can buy already pre-shredded, so there's no excuse for not saying you don't have time. So maybe it was a little bit too much. So if I have time, really quick, I'll show you one more. I go grab it off my desk, not my kitchen counter. And I know oats are so good for you. It seems like whenever anybody asks any of the plant-based doctors what they eat for breakfast, they always say oats. So I know it's good for cholesterol and blood sugar, and it's got all that fiber and vitamins, vitamin E, and so on. So you can make it in a bowl then instead of a jar if you choose to do that. So let me see what I've got. So I've got the oats, and we're going to add the milk. Looks like I've got breakfast for the next couple days here, which is great. So then, speaking of mangoes, Joan, I did use the frozen mango chopped up, and I do suggest you chop it into small pieces. And there's also some pineapple. So I had the frozen pineapple. And you could use a can of pineapple if it has no sugar added, if that's all you have available. But I like chopped in small pieces because then you kind of get something with every bite. So I'm going to throw that in. And then I have coconut, shredded coconut. It's not too much. And what else? I ended up with some dried pears in here. I found that it needed a little bit of sweetener, and dried fruit give this, because it soaks it in, just like the raisins would. So you could do dried mango. I happen to have this dried pear that is so sweet, I can't even eat it on its own. So I thought this would be perfect just to put, a tablespoon or 2 of that in there and let it sit overnight. And you could add maple syrup to taste, or any other flavor, cinnamon or anything else that you like. And that is it. Close it up, put it in the fridge, and we're done. So I hope you will enjoy either eating your savory oats, strange as they sound. I promise you, they're delicious. And your overnight oats will keep you throughout the summer. And if you work, make up 3 or 4 jars, and you're good to go for the week. All right, so that is all I have to share with you. If you have questions, we are going to all be available to answer those questions. So I guess we're going to turn it over to everybody. Thanks.
You did it, Karen.
Okay.
On your knees and all.
On my knees, here I am.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Hey, Karen, I I was just really curious. My wife and I travel quite a bit as well. And when you make your overnight oats ahead of time, are you careful to make sure that you have those in a cooler? So let's say, it's 3 or 4 days, you're traveling on the road and stuff. And how long will they keep as well?
Okay. Well, I know they'll keep in the fridge for 3 or 4 days, and they get softer and softer as it goes on. But when I travel, generally it's what I've made up ahead is for the first day. So I just take it, and we almost always have a cooler when we travel anyway. So yes, I would put it in a cooler, or we'd be eating it within the first hour or so of leaving. But then what I do is most of the places we stay I make sure we have a mini fridge, so that I can just take, I almost always have oats, just take some rolled oats, some cinnamon, plant milk, and some raisins. I mean, those are kind of like our staple travel items anyway. So by putting them into the jar like the night before at the hotel, we'll do that, and then they're ready for the next morning. So I don't usually make it up for days on end. You could if you had room, but that's usually how we do it.
Yeah.
And fresh. Hotels almost always have bananas and apples if you're just at a hotel. So you can put that in at night, or you can throw it in the morning.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Mark, I have one more tip to add to the overnight oats. You cannot take it through TSA. They almost tossed my week's worth of oats, overnight oats at TSA. They told me to go back, check in my suitcase, because I was them going to throw they said it looked too liquidy. I said, it isn't, it's dried up. They said no. So make sure if you're going through a flight, you need to check in the overnight oats. Then I want to
I meant to say that. So thank you, Sharmila. I have to say, yes, I had peanut butter closed up and that was taken away because it's gel-like. So,
but could you just claim it's your lunch?
I think if it's anything like a liquid these days.
Oh, okay.
I've had yogurt taken away because I've forgotten, and peanut butter, and I thought about the oats, but I suppose you could have all the ingredients in it and just add, just add water. It probably wouldn't, or I don't know, it wouldn't taste very good, but eat it like a cereal, because I know you can eat oats raw. You don't really have to soak them or have to cook them. We've done that before, but I don't know how you get the milk and the plant milk.
Yeah, I bet you could take that all dry if you wanted to pack it in your carry-on, because a lot of times, like when we travel on on the plane, we just take a carry-on and that's it. So if I was to had all the ingredients dry, and then when we got somewhere, if I ran into a store to grab a box of almond milk or something like that, that would probably work too.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I do is I just also make granola at home with almost the same ingredients, and then just add fresh fruit and fresh plant-based milk, at the local place that I am at. So, toss everything with all the nuts and the seeds and the chia seeds and, whatever you feel like with all the dry fruits. and then bake it at a very slow temperature for like 45 minutes to an hour. It's dry. You can take it in your checked luggage and then add fresh fruits and plant-based milk. So
That's a good point. We've got some questions for Sharmila. I know there's a couple of them. I saw one. Here's, what kind of pan did you use, Sharmila?
So this pan is a non-stick pan. I can look up the name. This I was cooking on an induction oven, so this had to be one of those induction suitable or viable type of pan. But it was just a regular non-stick pan that I found on Amazon, and I can look up the link and I can post it on the comment section after we are done.
Very good.
So.
Yeah. And then there's another question there. Is it traditional to add a tea bag when cooking beans?
Yes, so this chole is from the northern part state called Punjab, and in Punjab it was a tip given by a Punjabi person to me that when you add tea bags, they usually traditionally add tea bags to their choles to get that dark color that I was talking about.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm from the southern part of India, but this is a traditionally a northern part of India type of dish. Yes, and they do add tea bags to that. So.
One of the many benefits we've talked about with respect to being whole food plant-based is you get exposed to so many different types of foods, and I also got to say, along with the food comes wonderful people like my colleagues on today's show. And Sharmila, chole. I've never had chole before, and I'm certainly gonna excuse me, try making that. So that whole idea, excuse me, of adding tea bags is just wonderful. There's another question there for you. Could we blend dried mangoes in a Vitamix for the mango paste and substitute?
Are you talking about for the chole for the dry mango powder?
Right.
You will have to actually dry the. I don't know if you can get dry green mango. It's actually the Amchur is nothing but dried raw mango. It isn't the fresh kind. And what I have noticed is I haven't been able to get the raw mango even in the Indian store, which is sour enough for me to even experiment. As I said, we have close to 500, 600 varieties of mangoes in India, and we get the really tangy, sour kinds of mangoes, which when they're in the raw form. And that's the kind that they take at the right time, dry it, sun dry it, and then powder it. So
it's really tough to substitute it. It sounds.
Yes. So if you're going to substitute it, I would substitute it with lime or lemon juice. So
lime or lemon juice, so that would give the acidity and the tartness. Is that?
Yes, I would do that at the end, not at the beginning. So.
At the end, okay. So that's fresh and brightens the dish up.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, there's so many cool ways as you get into this cooking. Cool ways you can use substitutes, and my wife and I, who frequents as my sous chef and keeps me in order and all that kind of good stuff, she loves to follow recipes, to the letter, and I'm very creative. Hence, though, she's a much better pastry chef. She makes some wonderful desserts because you've got to be very, very specific. Well, one of the creative things, and I know there was a comment with respect to what other things you could add to taco salad, for example. I think it was Judy had posted taking tortillas and cutting them and making chips. So I actually have some kind of an interesting little example here. So I have these are blue corns, the blue corn tortillas, and all I do is triangle them up, put them on a sheet like this. You can do this with yellow corn. This is blue corn. Put them on a sheet, put them in the oven for about 10 minutes at 400 degrees, and they'll come out nice and crispy. You may wonder why, especially those of you that are new to whole food plant-based or vegan, typically don't worry too much about oil. We do, because as we said, and Sharmila I've underscored the point that I was making, and that they're empty calories. It really can do damage to your body. Despite all the things you hear about olive oil and all the safflower oil and omega-3 and all those kind of good things, you can get all those necessary vitamins by eating a whole food plant-based diet. We do supplement with B12 and vitamin D. We always encourage people, as you start this diet and go down this path, make sure you're speaking with your physician. That's a double-edged sword, though, because a lot of physicians won't understand whole food plant-based diet. but you'll want your physician to know that you're on the diet, and ask them to test your B12 and vitamin D too, vitamin D as well. The key thing about the oil, though, is I've got a kind of a funny little example here. So you probably remember back in the day when you go for Mexican food and you get your bag of tortilla chips, right? Well, this actually happened yesterday to us. My wife and I were out running about, and we have this one little Mexican restaurant. The guy's great. He knows that we're vegan, and his refried beans are made with no oil, no lard, anything. He knows we're vegan, and we get a vegan burrito with lettuce, tomato. We'll get some guacamole and pico de gallo, which is essentially onions, tomatoes chopped up with cilantro and some spices. And there was a new lady working there, and she threw in a bag of chips, and I brought these home. See all the oil? This is why we don't eat these fried tortilla chips, because of all the oil. So that's why take a little time and roast these guys up, and you'll save yourself a lot of calories and a lot of little heartache down the road. So.
I had one more thing that I wanted, speaking of veering off the track of a recipe, this savory oats, I've also added a quarter cup or more of red lentils. And my husband didn't even know that I added it to it. So again, when I talked about things being covered up inside there, so if you want to up your legumes for the day, it's a really easy way. Red lentils sort of dissolve. You don't even know they're there. I've also used riced cauliflower in there. You also can't really taste that too much either, or even shredded zucchini. So lots of ways to get those extra vegetables in while you're having your whole grains.
Yeah. We've got another question came up about the pomegranate powder. I think this is probably back to Sharmila. Can we use Amchur powder?
Yes, you can. It actually that is what is recommended, but I did not use it today because I don't know how easy it is to access pomegranate powder, but because I've only seen it at the Indian stores. But Amchur, I figured it's a hit or miss. Sometimes you do get it at the Asian grocery stores and things like that. So
right. Yeah.
We have a little Bombay Mart, it's called, right around the corner from me in Algonquin. So if anybody's out in northwest suburbs, I went in there the other day. I just needed one thing. And Sharmila, I wished you were with me. I was like, we need to go on a grocery store tour because there were so many wonderful things in there that I don't know what to do with yet. But I did pick up some of these things. So, and their spices and all that are very inexpensive.
It is very inexpensive, and it goes a long way. So.
Yeah. It does. Another large grocer, if you're in the Chicago market, I know they're all over the country, are Patel Brothers.
Yes.
There's a one in the western suburbs, and I think there's a couple in the Chicago market. But if you're in your
Naperville, one in Schaumburg, one in Skokie.
Yeah.
I think there are 3 or 4 in the Chicagoland area. So.
Yeah. Frequently this also reminds me of something people ask. Boy, it seems like a lot of trouble to go through to get all these spices and bake your own chips and everything like that. I also say, well, it's what else is a lot of trouble is going to sit in the doctor's office and having heart procedures and going for kidney issues and so forth. So I'd rather take the trouble and find the spices than sit in the doctor's office. At least give myself a fighting chance. The
other thing that, just to add to that, Mark, people say, oh, this way is very expensive. It isn't. You're going to be spending money on the pills anyway, or the doctor's visit, the co-pays and the other, additional fees that you're going to be paying the doctors and the hospitals. Right. You might else spend it on this. And trust me, it isn't expensive. Our monthly budget on groceries never really went up unless you're going to go buy organic stuff, which, we do buy a few, but not many. It almost stayed the same because we're just eating a lot more fruits and vegetables. So
great. Yeah. So we've just got a few minutes left here, and we're kind of getting nudged by our producer to share some final thoughts. Thank you. I do want to say thank you to Bridget, who's behind the scenes and has helped us with this technology today. And just want to really thank everybody for joining us. Keep posted on our Facebook at Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, PBNM. on our web as well at pbnm.org. And if the spirit so moves you, we are a not-for-profit organization. I know the link to the donations has come up a couple times on the little ticker at the bottom, pbnm.org/donate. If you can give us a few bucks, that would be great and wonderful. How about we go around the horn and just kind of say a couple final thoughts? Karen, you want to kick us off?
I'm just glad I got on here today. That's my final. I was touch and go there for a while, but no, I mean, I just tell people, I just want to tell everybody, check our website too, because we have other events. I don't know if I missed a lot of the beginning because I was doing this, but we have a monthly support group. Meryl,
and you lead that, right? Don't you participate?
I do. Joan and I, plus there's a few other, Meryl and Carrie, board members, and Vivian, another one of our members. We kind of rotate through, but it's just a very kind of informal but informative format. Also, we have, I don't know if you mentioned the podcasts that Carrie and Meryl are doing that I think are worth definitely taking a peek at, and I believe you can get that all through our pbnm.org. So please join us. You need people. You need people to do this. It's hard to be out there doing it on your own, but it's definitely possible. And I've never felt better eating this way. I just love it. So I hope you do too.
Great. Sharmila?
I just have to say that, this isn't rocket science. It is super easy. You just have to meal prep, meal plan, think ahead, think creative. As Mark said, I'm also just very similar to Mark. I never follow a recipe. I just have all the spices. I follow the basic recipe, and then I get creative every week with the same recipe sometimes. And I'm here to support. I know most of us are here to support if you guys are trying to switch, but think that in the long run, this is the healthiest way of eating and living, a disease-free life. And we are all standing here. That is a proof that we are not deficient on any vitamins, minerals, B12, nothing. So you're not going to get anything from the animals that you're not going to get. And remember, the animals eat the same food that we eat. So if the cow is strong or the elephant is strong, we are going to be equally strong. So please consider switching to this lifestyle. This is the best thing that you can do to your bodies. So.
Great. Thanks, Sharmila. And Joan?
Well, as a nurse, I'll just parrot those same words that, for our health, as well as, again, if you come from a background where you don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen, that was my big concern. And I've gotten so many recipes. I'm all anxious to try those oatmeal recipes that Karen mentioned. And I think I'll go with the chole because I like garbanzo beans. And, sometimes it helps okay, that really didn't look that hard. So I'm grateful that I was able to watch all these recipes. And if I'm inspired to cook, I hope the rest of you are too. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Check us out. Follow us on Facebook. If you want to rewatch parts of this broadcast, it will be on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be well.
Bye.
Bye.